FlintTalkRadio.com.
Yes, this is John, and this is Flint Talk Radio. And recently it's been brought to my attention some real critical issues about the Flint school system, and that was brought to my attention by a friend of mine from long ago, Lamar Davis. He's a school teacher in the Flint system, and he wants to really bring this people attention to the situation, which he thinks is pretty crucial to look at and maybe change what's going to go on. So why don't we go from there?
Well, I'd like to begin. I would like to thank you for offering me the opportunity to express myself here with you. I'd like to address basically an issue that came up in the Flint Journal yesterday under an article titled "Board Moves Ahead with Curriculum Plan." It points out that the board is involved in a four-phase process to develop a school improvement plan. They're in the second phase of it at this time. They've already spent approximately $363,000 in the first phase, and they are in the process today, as I speak, at the board meeting to engage in voting on whether they should spend another $363,000 in order to hire a company out of Massachusetts to create a school improvement plan for the district.
Now that's a lot of money. It sounds like, I think.
Well, it's a lot of money in lieu of the. In fact, the article continues to bring up that the district has defined itself as cash strapped, and so it is cash strapped. The whole United States is cash strapped, as you could see, regarding the home, the loss of homes and the economy in general. But yes, it is cash strapped, and they're talking about spending this additional money for things that I really feel is not even necessary to purchase.
Now there was already a curriculum written up, right?
Well, first and foremost, there is a state curriculum, and then there's a district curriculum. And the district curriculum is aligned with the state curriculum. So I have no idea, and many of my colleagues, I'm sure, once they get whiff of this article, they won't have a single idea why it is necessary for the Flint School District to spend $363,000 in order to bring about an additional creation of a school improvement or curriculum. Excuse me.
See, right off the top, I can see that that people like from outside, like Massachusetts and stuff like that, I don't think they're actually being in tune with what the educational needs for a particular area like this would be.
Well, it doesn't seem that they would be. I mean, I think that our problems may be unique, although there can be some similarities. But overall, our situation is can be fairly unique. And I would think that the district would consider the amount of teachers in the Flint School District who have bachelor's, master's, and PhDs, as well as administrators who are forward-thinking, who can be a vital asset and resource in terms of creating a curriculum if they so desire to create one. But again, I don't understand why you would need to create a brand new curriculum when you have the state curriculum as well as the district curriculum in existence right now.
Yeah, it seems like it begs the question. It's like an overkill and a redundancy, and it's just the stupidity.
I would go with the stupidity on the highest level because, I mean, teachers, we can't even get money to attend conferences. Let's say if a conference is being held in Illinois or a conference is being held in Detroit, and here we are in Flint. We can't even get travel costs paid for to attend that conference. And here we are about to spend $363,000 for a curriculum in hopes that it will improve the students' academic achievement. Now, the first question is there a guarantee that there will be an improvement in the educational experience of the student? Or that is, say, is there a guarantee that there will be student improvements in student achievement just because you have a new curriculum on the scene? Is there a guarantee?
Or does it maybe just appeals like a novelty approach thing? That's what it seems like to me. It's like it's new, so it's gonna be better, and that seems to be the case for everything, newer and better.
Well, whether it's new or old, the question is whether it's going to be efficient enough to help students be able to do well academically. And it's not. First of all, a curriculum will not improve the student's academic achievement. It will not do that. A curriculum, in my opinion, is mainly an alignment of classes that are provided by the district. But so that's the written curriculum. And then, of course, there's the unwritten curriculum as well, which Paulo Freire talks about in his book, Pedagogy of the Oppressed. And Ira Shore also talks about this ideal of a hidden curriculum. But, whether just because you have certain classes on paper, is that really going to guarantee that the students are going to do well academically?
Now, I think there's a lot of issues. Another thing is like it can't be overlooked is discipline within the schools permitted. What you can do to discipline the kids within schools, as well as the parents' input too, parental input. And I think that's largely goes ignored in this district.
Well, it is. It's incredibly ignored. I mean, we had young ladies at Northwestern High School, which is a school that I teach at, who would place a lock in a sock and hit a young girl in the head and bust her head wide open, and there was blood throughout the hallway. That was one incident that occurred. There was another incident where a young lady took a fire hydrant and just sprayed it throughout the entire hallways, and it was just left this foggy film throughout the floor and the walls and so forth. We've had incidences where students have been fighting. I mean, whereas Northwestern Preparatory Academy wants to be known as the best choice in the Flint schools, and in many of the minds of many teachers, it appeared to be the best choice to rumble. I mean, it was almost like as soon as you walked into the building, sometimes students will be fighting. It was almost like, let's get ready to rumble, and then the kids are just fighting throughout the hallways. And that's before first hour began. Okay. And it was amazing to me. I mean, it's like right after your Captain Crunch. You know what I'm saying?
The sugar rush.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Don't feed your kids before going to school, maybe?
Yeah, right.
Not sugary stuff.
Well, and this kind of thing went on for quite some times, and it really ruffled the feathers of many teachers who felt that the building was getting out of control, and it actually was getting out of control as well. And there were students who would be suspended, but they would be right back in the building the very next day. Although they're supposed to be at home, they decide that they're going to come to school whenever they want to.
Now, see, the complaint I've had from amongst people, I have friends who are other, teachers in other Flint schools. There's not a consistency, or a lot of times they're like administrators don't seem to back teachers when it comes to disciplinary problems. They seem to try to play the nice guy, and they look at sometimes they try to get the teacher being written to be depicted as kind of a hard case or a hard ass.
Well, if you are a teacher who really has standards in the classroom, if you are a teacher who says that you are going to enforce education in the room, that you're going to have an environment set for learning in the classroom, then you can sort of get on the nerves of some administrators who see you as a danger. Many administrators, when a student is disruptive repeatedly in the classroom and the teacher sends them out, which, by the way, is consistent with the school district policy. Mm-hmm. The administrator will try to bring that student back into the classroom and will inform the teacher that they cannot send the student out of the classroom, which is ridiculous. And when they do that, they are actually compromising the integrity of the system. Anytime a principal forces a disruptive student back into the classroom to continue disrupting the educational process, then that principal should be fired, because that principal is standing in the way of the rights of the more serious students who want to get an education over the disruptive behavior of those students who don't want it.
See, when I was in school, I remember when they caught a kid skipping in school, not in the classroom, they were hanging around the college, the campus or whatever. And when they caught these kids, they would give them 2 to 3 day suspension. And I asked the principal, I said, why are you giving exactly what they want? They don't want to be in classroom, then you're giving exactly what they want.
Yeah, well, that's sort of a sticky issue. I think that the school, whenever the school puts itself in a position, not just the school, because the school is not doing anything. There are human beings who are making decisions
Right.
there. So these administrators, whenever they put themselves in a position where they don't enforce their own policies and procedures, then they jeopardize the integrity of the system. And I know that a lot of people may not want those students, in the building. They're skipping, or maybe they're fighting, or whatever the case may be. I don't know. I think right now they probably should just send them home. I mean, that's just my opinion. I know you have a different opinion, and that's okay. But I think that issue should be debated, though.
Yeah, actually, another thing is I always thought that it would be a good idea if they actually had like an in-school suspension where they had to come to school, be in a classroom, set aside for that, and then actually were given a lot of tasks to do, so they would discourage that kind of behavior. But that was my opinion.
Well, they do have they did have it at Northwestern in the year last year, but what was really interesting is there was a young lady there who was running the suspension program, the in-school suspension program, a couple of years back, and she was doing an excellent job, a perfect job. And she was running it practically like a military, and it was very quiet. The students were very separate from each other, where they couldn't engage in any, discussion, and they were made to do, the work that was sent by the teacher and so forth. And then what happened is they got rid of her for some strange reason, gave her a different duty, and then hired a teacher who was skilled in the area of English, and placed that teacher in the suspension room. So in other words, you've taken a teacher who is skilled in a subject that students need to badly learn, and you've taken that teacher out of that classroom situation and given them an in-school suspension job, and you've taken the other lady who didn't have qualifications to teach but was doing well in that program and gave her something else. And I thought that was kind of a ridiculous decision as well.
Now, we kind of touched upon in this conversation so far about, you're really kind of anger, I guess you'd call it, and kind of dismay about what this hiring this outside group to come in to create a curriculum, basically. Do you think who do you think actually would, if there's got to be tweaking? I mean, there's got to be changes in the curriculum. But I mean, for one thing, what do you think is really should be emphasized?
Well, what they really should do, right, in terms of curriculum is concerned, is at the junior high school level and the high school level, you may not know this, they have gutted the teaching of English, grammar, predicates, nouns, pronouns, how you write. You see, they have all but gutted that kind of thing. And what they are calling English at the middle school level and the high school level, they're designating it as English. The parent will see the word English on the child's report card, but actually it's literature.
See, now I've had several classes of literature when I was in college, and actually I go back and actually learn. I'm learning grammar now, actually. I mean, I got a workbook on it. You actually, so you know what words, what not to do. And you're not taught that. In the Flint school system, when I went to it, you really didn't get an emphasis on grammar.
Right. When I went to Beecher schools, and I had some excellent teachers. I remember Miss Smith and Miss Harris, and they emphasized the teaching of grammar. And in fact, that's what we were learning. It wasn't an emphasis there. That was it right there. And now what students are getting is what I term incidental grammar. That is to say, whenever a problem comes up in the midst of a story, or maybe a student doesn't understand something, then the teacher may, which means they may not, focus in on some particular aspect of grammar, you see. So I think what needs to happen is they need to teach grammar again. They need to have grammar classes.
For the teachers too.
Right. Well, no question about it. Well, I think that's a legitimate issue too, because I mean, a lot of us haven't had it in quite some time.
Correct.
And there are some teachers who are coming into the profession who may have never had it.
Right.
Because it's been sort of phased out. I mean, I'm getting students who are writing essays using street language.
Terrible.
Street language. And instead of them saying because, writing the word because, they're writing cuz, C-U-Z-Z. You see? And so that what is happening is they are confusing the standard English with the street lingual. And many of the students don't know the difference between the two, because when they go home, their mother and father, their cousins, aunts and uncles and brothers and sisters all speak in that sort of a street lingo as well. So that when the students write an essay to me, I don't totally blame the student. I think that the student is doing the very best with what they have to work with.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But I think that in order to rectify this problem, there is a need to develop grammar classes in the school building. Now, they should have literature as well, and literature should be called literature, not English.
Right.
But they should have maybe 3 layers of English, one that will be considered basic, and then mid-level, and then more advanced. And that once they complete the basic, then they should go to the mid-level and then the advanced, so that you essentially have a progressive curriculum that is that exists.
No.
And they don't even have to pay me $145,000 to say this either.
No, see, no, that's another thing is too. It's like, if they want to spend money, why couldn't they get some teachers who actually have legitimate backgrounds and developing curriculum? And I'm sure there's out there. Why would they pay them extra money to do this kind of thing?
Right, exactly. Why not pool the very best teachers out there who are interested in developing some sort of a curriculum, and get them to meet, have a series of meetings and iron those things out. But then again, it goes back to, hey, I've been teaching for about 16 years now. The school district has always had a curriculum, and they've been talking curriculum for the past 16 years that I've been teaching, and I've seen drafts and final drafts of curriculum. So I don't understand why there's a need to spend $363,000 for a curriculum, which is I thought that's what we had already in place.
Now, getting back to this, the journal article about this, is there any other points you'd like to bring out about what you would find, you agree with or you disagree with? Or?
Well, it says here the curriculum is being written by Perry and Associates of Duxbury, Massachusetts. Of course, the question is whether the people in Massachusetts really have a handle on what the conditions are in the Flint School District.
Right.
I mean, how can you actually write a curriculum, right, and you haven't even engaged in a thorough analysis of what the conditions are in the building?
Correct.
How can you hire somebody in that manner who has not engaged in some sort of thorough analysis?
Correct.
So it's like you just want to put everything in the hands of someone else so that they can do the work for you. And then here's one piece of this as well. It says the written curriculum will provide teachers with clear-cut prescriptions for lesson plans, which is sort of scary to me, because I don't think that teachers want prescriptions for their lesson plans, and it sounds like they want to really turn the teacher more so into a robot, which would be a total violation of their contractual rights, especially the academic freedom clause. It sounds like they might just want the teacher to teach to a particular script. But it goes on. As well as best practices for teaching material, benchmarks, and a support structure, said Eugene Rutledge, Executive Director of Curriculum and Instruction. Mr. Rutledge is the Executive Director of Curriculum and Instruction. Why is the Flint School District paying him? Mm-hmm. And he's been in that position for years. Why are they paying him when he's supposed to have developed some sort of a curriculum? I mean, he is the executive director, not just the director, but the executive director of curriculum and instruction.
Another thing is, I don't think a lot of people realize that initial cost of 363,000.
Yeah, well, that was the first. They've already paid that once.
Right.
Now we're in the process of paying it again for the second phase in a 4-phase process of developing this curriculum. It also points out, it says the board also expressed approval Monday for contracting with an outside company for a strategic plan. Now wait a minute here. Here we have a superintendent, we have board members, and they've been in positions for quite some time.
Right.
And we've not only had those people in positions for quite some time, but we've had previous people in positions. We've had several superintendents, and they still don't have this thing together yet.
And that's 16 years that you know of since you've been
My
assistant.
God, man, it's what it is. I'm going to tell you. In my opinion, we're in a leadership crisis. This is a catastrophe.
Now, do you think it's just because part and parcel because of the Flint School District being in such a beleaguered city, the Flint? Do you think there's kind of like almost a hopelessness that's set in with these educators?
Well, I mean, I think it's hopelessness at the top. I mean, you know what? They don't even have hope enough to believe in themselves. Because if they believed in themselves, they wouldn't have to go to Massachusetts to get somebody else to do what they're hired to do and what they've been voted on to do.
No, I know. The other thing is I haven't heard stellar things about the school systems of Massachusetts that I've heard. I mean, I've heard there's serious shortcomings and pitfalls within that system. So, I mean.
Well, again, the question is whether a curriculum is going to determine whether students are doing well in the classroom. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not. And what I am saying is that if they believe that if they just develop this curriculum, all will be well, I'm going to say right now on 8608 that their analysis is faulty and that there would not be any improvements. They believe that they can get more, get parents to bring their kids to the Flint schools, and they think that part of the problem is the curriculum. That's why many parents are not bringing their kids to the Flint schools. No. There's an economic downturn, in particular in Michigan, and it's very heavy in Flint. And so people are moving out of Flint and going to other states, seeking employment so that they can kickstart their life.
Right.
So that they can buy a home and a car and do for their families. So that the economic factor is much greater than the curriculum factor. So again, their analysis is faulty.
The other thing is too, they're trying to, basically I think their hope is, and I think it's probably misguided, but it's understandable, that having a better education system will lead to a better economic development in the state, but I think it's putting the cart before the horse. I really do. I mean, in this instance, I really do. Because it's so bad. The economic situation is so bad in the state.
Well, first and foremost, the question is, before they engage in spending the $363,000, have they done everything that they can to attempt to improve the situation in the schools? Have they? And I would have to say no. I'm going to tell you why. I work there every day. First of all, during school. Mm-hmm. Now, first and foremost, they don't even have a comprehensive tutoring program in place. What they have occasionally at the schools are volunteers from area churches. That's it. There is no comprehensive tutoring program that exists in the Flint School District, and certainly not at Northwestern, where I was teaching at. When I taught for 12 years or more at Whittier Middle School before they became what is it?
Classic Academy or
Yeah,
something.
the Whittier Classical Academy. You know, you have to
What's in
say it
East
with the
Village?
English. Yeah, they.
It's an East Village.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. So they don't have comprehensive tutoring. They didn't have it then. They had one church member that used to come in and tutor, and he would be in the library by himself. So when I say a comprehensive tutoring program, what I'm saying is this. Number one, you identify students whose grade point average is 3.0 or below. I'm sorry, yeah, 2.0 and below. And what you do is you contact those students and their parents, pull them into a meeting and let them know that they need to attend tutoring, that they are they're going to be placed on academic probation. We don't even have an academic probation system set up.
I never seen one when I was in there.
That's right.
Yeah.
And what you do then is you place those kids on academic probation and you let them know exactly what it is that they need to be doing. And one of them is going to be bringing notes home to their parents signed by their teacher saying whether they did their work for that day or not. So we're going to monitor that on a daily basis. We're going to also monitor whether the child went to tutoring during the tutoring time periods and what they worked on specifically. And then we are going to have follow-up meetings to make sure that progress is being made and that the child is doing everything that they need to be doing to improve themselves academically. And so as we have these follow-up meetings, we will determine then whether the child should be taken off academic probation or whether we should just continue it on, because what we want to do ultimately is we want to see some improvements in those grades. We don't want that child sleeping in the classroom. And right now, this comprehensive approach to tutoring, and we make it also, I should point out, we make it mandatory that the child attends tutoring, period. Mm-hmm. They sign in, they show proof. When we have our follow-up meeting, they're going to show proof that they attended tutoring during those particular days. And we should have tutoring 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And you know who we should hire?
Who's that?
U of M students, Mott students, Kettering students, Baker students.
It's a good idea.
Who need employment.
Right.
So we can pay them minimum wage or above minimum wage to come in and tutor 2 hours every day after school, and make it mandatory that those students attend those tutoring sessions and show proof that they were there,
right.
Written, and then move on from there.
And that money right there that they spend for this consultant, and going to spend more for this consultant, it could have better been spent in this kind of a tutorial program that you're suggesting.
Baby, they should have hired me.
I was going to say,
I would have been cheaper.
It's like a lot cheaper. I mean, maybe tacking another $20,000 a year for your efforts.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm going to tell you, and this, you know what, you cannot put a word forward to the board members and they actually listen to it and actually follow up on what it is that you said they should consider doing. I mean, they never seem to, like when I've gone before the board, that's why I'm not at the board right now, at the meeting, sitting in front of them saying, well, look, I think it's ridiculous that you're going to spend this money. The reason why I'm not there is because of this. Right after I finish talking, they'll say, okay, thank you very much.
That's it.
Yes. They won't say, well, we have a committee working on this or that, you see. Mm-hmm. And so what that tells me is that they don't have a committee, which means they really don't care, or B, they really don't care. So
apathy either way around. No, see, it's like I'm gonna, I've told you before, because this is you're very passionate about education. I've known you since about 85, 1985.
Yeah.
And I've always known that you've always had a commitment to, especially urban, education and teaching the inner city. And, I'll extend the chance for you to, if you want to come into here on a semi-regular basis, to bring issues like this to people's attention.
I would love to do that. I would definitely do that because I'm going to tell you, I had been engaged in quite a long battle between various principals who who were harassing me on several occasions and really was trying to produce the conditions for me to get fired in some kind of way. And the reason why was because of some articles previously that had been published in the Flint Journal regarding, my views on education and so forth. And so there was really a strong desire by Eleanor Crutchfield at Whittier Middle School to get rid of me. Yeah. That's right. Hey, because it's real. And if she wanted to sue me for naming her name, then all I have to do is pull the documents out of my bag at home. And though I could definitely confirm the battles that we had engaged in. And I can say that the union is almost next to useless in terms of defending teachers who only want to be human and express themselves as a human being and not be a puppet or a robot for the system.
See, that's what, I think it takes a lot of courage, because I've had teachers, friends of mine, people I taught to, say they have problems with what's going on in the school system, but I encourage them to, write something. Oh, I can't do it. I'm afraid of my job. So I said, nothing's going to be changed until somebody's got the guts to stand up and say, this is what I'm going to do. We're going to talk about it.
Yeah, but I think we need a special program on what I think teachers, what parents can do to influence the board. Because there is, I don't know if you've ever heard of this 10-count day. Yeah,
that's like so many weeks into school. They have everybody supposed to send their kid so they can count them so they can get the funding, isn't it?
Exactly. Right. So that there's a specific time period when the state through the school will engage in watching certain students who missed a particular day at the beginning of the count, right, the 10-day count. They want to make sure that those students return back. So that's the time period when the administration is doing everything they can to try to get that child to come back to the school. But that right there is a window of opportunity for parents to protest. Whenever parents can begin to touch the money, then they'll begin to touch the mind of the board.
So anyway, it's like, I think we kind of want to wrap this up a bit, because it's like, but I definitely, yeah, already? But I think it'd be a good idea for you to come on a regular basis and bring other teachers who have the guts enough to come out and talk. Maybe if you can get some board members who, there's some potential allies, maybe you can create potential allies for yourself.
No.
That's not a goal, huh?
It's not going to happen.
Right.
And it's going to be very, very hard to find teachers as well. I'm trying to put together a book right now, and I want to sort of give the public a ground level knowledge of what's happening. Barring some fancy studies that's been conducted from Harvard or Yale.
Yeah, see, I always laugh when I hear those names bandied about, those colleges, because they act like they're end all be all, they're all omniscient, and they're not. The researchers there are just as flawed or just as good or just as bad as anywhere else.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, but anyway, definitely like to encourage you to come on a regular basis, and you can get back to me on that. And,
and definitely.
I thank you very much for showing up.
Yes.
So. Anyway, it's getting very warm in here, because I know that we got to put the air conditioner in.
I think it's our mind, though. It's our mind. It's it's our mind working together. It's a brain cells kind of creating a fusion. It's
always been good. It's always good to talk to you. I remember we used to have a lot of brawls and debates over at Mott. So.
Oh yeah.
So thanks a lot, Lamar.
And U of M too.
Yeah, and U of M for a year or so before
that's
you left.
Right.
Yeah, because you graduated.
I enjoyed you too.
Yeah,
that's right.
So anyway,
despite of what everyone else was saying about you.
Thank you, man. anyway, I hope you guys are listening in, and I hope you we encourage Lamar to come in and do a regular show. So you have a good one, and thanks a lot for joining us.